You can use DEI. That's fine.
I don't like using it because it causes, especially for somebody I might disagree with.
I like using it. I got no problem with it, even though it pisses people off. That's what makes it more fun.
well, let's use DEI then. Fine. It's my belief, right, that these types of demographic goals, if that's your basis for setting a target, that is incompatible with pure meritocracy. Where
absolutely not.
Yeah, and that's why I know you disagree, right? So give me your view.
You know, in today's world, businesses are increasingly battling over buzzwords like diversity, equity and inclusion, DEI, and environmental, social, and governance, ESG. But these concepts are stirring up more than boardroom strategies. They're lighting up intense debates across the country. What's going on? Well, you've got these two monumental personalities, Vivek Ramaswamy criticizing the so-called woke capitalism, and Mark Cuban defending diversity initiatives. You gotta ask yourself, what does it mean for the American workplace? Are these principles reshaping business practices for the better, or just undermining true meritocracy? This clash over DEI and ESG is not just about corporate policies, it's about who we are. To make sure you never miss these insightful deep dives, just hit that subscribe button. Seriously, folks, I'm on this journey to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of February, and your support means the world to me. All right, let's get right into it and break down the intense conversation that has everyone talking. Vivek Ramaswamy and Mark Cuban recently faced off over the ever-controversial DEI and ESG principles.
You can use DEI. That's fine.
I don't like using it because it causes, especially for somebody I might disagree with.
I like using it. I got no problem with it, even though it pisses people off. That's what makes it more fun.
well, let's use DEI then. Fine. It's my belief, right, that these types of demographic goals, if that's your basis for setting a target, that is incompatible with pure meritocracy. Where
absolutely not.
Yeah, and that's why I know you disagree, right? So give me your view.
So imagine they're around a table, tension slowly rising, as Ramaswamy kicks off by questioning the actual merit and utility of these initiatives. He argues strongly that they're just superficial measures, often used by companies for mere virtue signaling, lacking any real impact on the supposed goals of true diversity or inclusion. Vivek insists that in the race to appear woke, companies may be sidelining actual meritocracy, the backbone of any flourishing business. Now enter Mark Cuban, who's firmly on the other side of this debate. Cuban passionately defends DEI initiatives as essential for reflecting the diverse world we live in.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree. Okay, so it's saying, look, there's a lot of women, Black, Asian, whatever it may be, people that I think are not being recruited. That there are a lot of people who may not have the best test scores from the best school, but they may have a lot of soft skills from their experiences. I'm going to go and find the best possible candidates that I can. And they're going to compete with everybody else. I'm going to say this person, this woman, African-American woman who was from this small school that I've never recruited at, she's brilliant. And when I compare her to other people that I might hire, she's better. Now, this other person, African-American, another small school I typically don't recruit at, they may not be good enough. I'm not going to hire them just because they're Black from a small school that nobody else recruited at. They have to qualify. So then when I hired this African-American woman from this small school, because she has amazing soft skills, maybe not the best test scores, that's where equity comes.
He suggests that the inclusion of varied perspectives isn't just a feel-good function, it's a critical component for any business aiming to succeed in today's multifaceted and, interconnected global market. Cuban insists that focusing on diverse hiring actually results in better positions for competing in the international arena.
It means putting people in a position to succeed, giving them the tools that they need. So she might have soft skills I invested in this company called Scoutable. And they'll look for similarities. They'll do a statistical analysis and they'll say, look, this person who we found in the middle of nowhere doesn't have a computer science degree, but the soft skills that they have matches up perfectly to our best programmers. Okay. So we're going to take a chance on that person. And the equity is we're going to give them extra computer training because we know based off of the data that we're using, they're very capable in ways other people aren't going to find the diversity. And we're going to give them the tools to put them in a position to succeed. Whether or not they will succeed is up to the ability of us to train that person and up to their ability to live up to what we expect of them. If they don't, they'll get a chance or two like every other employee. They'll get, a report from HR saying, here's what you got to do if you're not doing well. And you still have to compete and you still have to do.
You can almost feel the exchange get heated as Ramaswamy raises an eyebrow, pointing out how these approaches often translate into focusing on demographic quotas over actual qualifications. Cuban doesn't back down, though. He continues by illustrating how DEI initiatives aren't about ticking boxes, but about creating environments where individuals from all backgrounds can excel. He puts forward this idea: imagine, without diversity, aren't companies just missing out on innovative solutions and viewpoints? But, Ramaswamy's not convinced. He's concerned that these policies could lead to a culture where companies are more concerned with how they look rather than the quality of work they produce. He calls it a diversity quota trap that might encourage hiring for appearances instead of capabilities. It's a viewpoint that, to be honest, resonates powerfully with those who feel left out of the mainstream dialogue. Then Cuban throws another argument into the mix. He asserts that each business needs not only diversity in race or gender, but in skills and experiences. He mentions the data-driven selection processes that identify candidates with unmatched soft skills, even if they lack traditional credentials. This kind of inclusive scouting, according to Cuban, can unearth hidden talents that conventional methods might overlook. But here's the twist. Ramaswamy isn't buying it. He retorts that relying heavily on these processes might overlook the very essence of what makes a candidate suitable for a role in the first place. The duo's discussion further escalates to address what this means practically for businesses. Ramaswamy takes aim at the cost and potential inefficiency of hiring more diversity managers and rolling out continuous training programs. Are these costs worthwhile if the return isn't guaranteed? Cuban, on the other hand, argues that initial investments in diverse talent pay off by shaping a workforce capable of adapting to various markets and clientele. This is where, folks, the divide becomes crystal clear. While Cuban perceives this as a strategic decision for long-term gains, Ramaswamy sees it largely as a distraction from core business performance metrics. Throughout their back and forth, the concept of meritocracy keeps resurfacing. Ramaswamy paints a vivid picture of corporate America moving away from rewarding ability towards appeasing cultural pressures. Cuban challenges this notion, asserting that talent, groomed in diverse settings, can only bolster an organization. Still, as they trade barbs, you can't help but notice they both uphold, in their own ways, the value of nurturing talent, albeit through different strategies. And then there's the elephant in the room, how these principles affect smaller businesses. Ramaswamy questions the viability of imposing structures designed for megacorporations onto smaller entities, hinting that this might choke out innovation and the dynamic adaptation small businesses thrive on.
Different types of businesses need different types of diversity. That's the whole thing.
Of course.
So how could it be that every business sets the same quota or same target based on race or gender, when in fact every business should say, we need this type of diversity, people who have experience in the humanities or math.
They do.
And they already do by focusing on return on equity instead of focusing on actual D, capital D diversity.
They go hand in hand. They go hand in hand because that CEO, if they can't hit their equity goals, right, their ROE goals, they're getting fired. Right,
that's gone. So that's what it comes down to, the ROE goals, the return on equity goal, which means there's a million factors you got to cover. Why do you want one blanket category of diversity?
It's not one blanket strategy. No CEO would have a clue.
Because it's the same. It's the same. Race and gender. Race and gender is what it always comes down to, or sexuality now too. So NASDAQ, in making some of the arguments you have, says they want companies to report the diversity of their boards of race, gender, and sexual orientation. So they get some suggestions. They say, hey, you're asking companies to report their diversity on race, gender, and sexual orientation. How about we add a couple of other metrics to the list? Veteran status, disability status. I don't remember if they said political beliefs or not, but veteran status and disability status are on there, and supposed political beliefs are also on the list.
Cuban's response is that the fundamental principles of inclusion shouldn't be set aside due to size. Instead, each business should adapt these in a way that's tailored but true to equitable practices. So, where does that leave us? This conversation is not just about clashing views, but about reflecting on how DEI and ESG impact everything from hiring practices to corporate success.
Targets are one thing, right? They're not a quota. If it was a quota, you would be able to, let me take a step back. There are these things called EEOC reports, the numbers for those vice president positions by male, female, white, black, Asian, other races, and biracial. And where you want to have a better portfolio outcome for your intellectual capital, there's certain things that you want to see happen. One of them is diversity.
I think it causes us to be more divided when we see each other on the basis of our skin.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree. Okay.
Are these initiatives truly pioneering changes in companies and institutions, or do they promote homogeneity under the guise of diversity? I'd love to hear what you think about this heated exchange. Is there something that, really stood out to you from the discussion? Let your voice be heard in the comments below, and let's dive deeper into what you believe holds merit in this ongoing debate over DEI in our society today. Your thoughts are totally valuable.